Space nerds! I actually can't believe this is happening, but it's a good time to be a space nerd. It's a really nice time, okay? No Man's Sky is having some great updates lately. Star Citizen obviously is doing its stuff. Elite Dangerous is still going. Empyrean, X4, Space Engineers. Like, the usuals are there, okay? But we haven't had the big RPGs to keep bringing people in. The mainstream hits that hit consoles, that hit PC, developing relationships, following characters, running storylines, missions, all that stuff. The Mass Effect kind of thing, right? But in the last 3 weeks, I want to say 3-4 weeks, we have gotten gameplay reveals for 2 different games that are shooting for that Mass Effect spiritual successor title. Owlcat Games has literally invoked the Mass Effect name to describe the Expanse Osiris Reborn and where it's going. And, well, I mean, Exodus has actual lead developers from the Mass Effect team working on it. So we've got some cool stuff to look at. I'm going to show you both of the gameplay trailers we've seen so far. Actually, one of them, this trailer was just released 2 days ago by IGN. I haven't seen this one yet. But then I'm also going to show you another game that has kind of slipped under the radar, but probably is going to interest a lot of the same people who are interested in games like this. Star Wars Zero Company is a Star Wars game through and through, and it's exploring a different kind of Star Wars gameplay than a lot of people do. It's more of a tactics kind of game. If you've played XCOM, then you know how small-scale squad tactics can work. Generally, it's more of like a chess match, consequences and choices throughout every conflict. The difference with this game is that they're actually going to give you a third-person kind of RPG element in between the battles. So it feels more like a character-driven, third-person Star Wars adventure game than a kind of like isometric strategy game that I think a lot of people get pushed away from. So we're going to talk about these 3 space games today. Starting with the Expanse gameplay trailer. We've already watched this through and through, so we're just going to jump through it and just kind of highlight some of the cool bits. Ah, man, but it's feeling good. Let's take a look.
It was like another life. Everything made sense to you.
Definitely got that Expanse grittiness here, which is nice.
Already? Wait, so you flew in on that?
Now, every voice a tight beam.
Protegen will easily turn this into a massacre if they want.
We need him alive!
Locked on to you, like a torpedo.
Do not interfere.
The universe never tells us if we did right or wrong.
I'm actually, I gotta say, I think that I think that Osiris Reborn is actually like standing up pretty solidly to Exodus in terms of like giving itself some space in the industry. A lot of people are really excited for this, just for the fact that it's the Expanse IP. That's a really great starting point. Even though the gameplay can look a little, I'm still out on the gameplay. I think overall the different environments and the fact that they seem like they're focusing on like space aspects a lot in this game, this might be the more interesting space RPG when you think about the complications you have to deal with gameplay wise. Still waiting to see what they do with Zero G stuff here.
Series belongs to Belters.
Music's also great.
I didn't become a mercenary to run away from my enemies.
Fear festering into hatred. Typical.
Surely a little gun doesn't scare you.
A Trojan horse. Protegen let its own enemies in.
An enemy of my enemy.
So I think the first comment that Mrs. Tomato made while we were watching this
A Trojan horse. Protegen let
was in this scene. She's like, "That's a nice butt." So we know what Mrs. Tomato will be doing in the Expanse.
its own enemies in.
An enemy of my enemy.
They actually, to jump forward, like they emphasize this is very much a Mass Effect game. Trust. They've got their relationship stuff in here. And guys, this is such a big part. Like the amount of time I spend on on the internet looking into these games and like the news and the things that people are talking about with these games, so many times it is the relationships with the characters. It is like literally hooking up with the characters that people are looking out for. A lot of folks are like, yo, look at what Baldur's Gate 3 did. Do it like that. Like it's a big part of how people feel about these sorts of games. And I think Owlcat recognizes that. I mean, they make these a lot. They make these kinds of games all the time. Not in third person, but these character-driven, story-driven games. The combat part of this is that's the question. Everybody that I've talked to says that an Owlcat game is good to go when it comes to story and characters, which is good for the Expanse. It's the gameplay that we're looking for here because they don't usually do third-person action games.
We have to find our own answer.
I also think there is an aspect of the Expanse that's kind of horror-focused that I'm hoping they focus. Like, I hate the horror part, okay? But I want to be scared by the proto-molecule. That stuff's scary. Now, moving on to Exodus, this is a different kind of game, but you'll see there is a lot of similarities in the gameplay, also looking quite Mass Effect-esque. This one itself is actually made by two Mass Effect veterans. Look it up real quick just so I make sure I don't get it wrong. Yeah, James Olen and Chad Robertson are both on the team. They worked on Mass Effect, Baldur's Gate, Knights of the Old Republic, Dragon Age games. However, Olen, he stepped down at the end of last year. He made a public statement about it, seemingly saying it wasn't about disagreements and stuff, but you never really know. That's been the one kind of worry sign in the development, that the big name from Mass Effect did step down, but there are still other developers who've come from those games, and obviously it's not like you have to work on Mass Effect to be a good dev or anything. That's just what a lot of people have latched onto, because that's such a loved series. Take a look at some of the gameplay, though. I think the sound in this one is fantastic. One thing I'm noticing just straight from here is, like, if you look at the character animations in this, that's probably the roughest thing, specifically right here. This scene, the way that this girl moves, it feels very 2000s AI. It's like the slow sliding walk. There's not really much like weight to the way she's moving. And I think that's the difference between something like that and the way these characters are animating. They look like they're a little more weighty. But you never know, it's all alpha footage. Very common action wheel. You got your team down here, you can give them some powers. It's not alien, the design. I like the sound design. I just saw a biotic push here. I missed that the first time. Watch this guy on the right. He just did one thing, now a little biotic push, huh? Oh, what was that? It's like some special ability. The sounds are enjoyable. Very pretty noises. So they're I think it actually they're dropping another gameplay reveal here. Not long before their other game, or after their other gameplay reveal. I do think that maybe that's a response to the fact that the Expanse dropped their gameplay last week. Maybe not, because Exodus actually had already dropped some gameplay earlier, about a month ago. I'm enjoying the sound design. I think that's the biggest thing for me right now. In this gameplay, both of these games, I think I'm kind of there with you in terms of the combat. It's not what's bringing me to the game. What's bringing me to the game is the environment, the story, the characters, the complications of space. And so far, Exodus hasn't really proven that for me. The Expanse, they've already done a lot of that work, just being an IP like that. I haven't read the book for Exodus yet. I haven't gotten really into the other fiction, but it certainly interests me as an IP. I'm just blown away by the fact that they haven't done any marketing through their whole time dilation feature. I thought that was going to be the biggest part of this game. I thought it was Fable 2.0 and everything took time and all the time changed the stuff, but so far the advertising makes it look mainly just like another sci-fi action RPG. So we'll see where Exodus goes, but I do think that as of right now, the Expanse offers something a little more interesting to casual onlookers. Let's not write the Expanse off though, because they've got something special going on now. The third game I wanted to talk about is Star Wars Zero Company. I'm going to let you see the trailer, and then I want to show you a video where they talk a little bit about how this game's going to work, because this one is out of left field. It's a bit of a surprise, and it's sneaking under the radar, I think.
Talk about the Clone Wars. They talk about the big moments, the crisis points, planetary invasions, all-out assaults, cities bombed to rubble. Truth is, there's a war you don't see.
Becoming in on, get yourselves ready. Reaching atmosphere in 3, 2, 1.
The one fought in the shadows. The war beneath the war. A war that's won with the right strategy. Surveillance, ciphers, good old-fashioned sabotage. These aren't the heroes they tell stories about.
The juice.
They're professionals.
Bro's got a cutter.
Setting aside their differences to take on the impossible.
Touchdown imminent. Tried not to make a mess.
But that's the job, and they get it done.
All right, so I know that last part, you see the gameplay and it kind of is like, oh, it's a strategy game. Hold on a second. I'm also feeling that way, and I'm not quite decided yet here. But I've started to look more into this and what the game is actually supposed to be, and the amount that they're trying to focus on it being an actually interesting game for action adventure players as opposed to just strategy game players. It's notable. I'm gonna let you, I don't want to steal all of PC Gamer's video here. You should watch this. I would give it a look up and check it out if you can. But there's something good here. I'm gonna let them talk about it a little bit. I'll jump around here so you can hear some of the bits that I thought were interesting, but I'd keep an eye on it.
And so what is really fun about this game is having different perspectives, having the Republic perspective from Bennett, having the Separatist perspective from Runa, having someone like Nish who's from the underworld who's just here to make a quick credit, you know?
Having them be introduced into the story of Zero Company and recruited in the squad one by one provides us a lot of momentum to kind of like carry you through the game. And there's, you know, as they come into the squad, they bring their own personal conflicts and dramas with them.
Even just like these snippets of these characters, like it was not hammy, you know, superhero stuff. It was genuinely funny moments. The characters really were kind of coming off the screen a little bit. It was exciting.
I also want to emphasize this dude. I'm pretty sure he's the guy who started the studio. This guy is a 20-year veteran at Firaxis. He was a technical artist, I believe, for the Civilization games. He worked on XCOM, if I'm not mistaken. I can actually just look him up. So I'm pretty sure I see some people pointing out the EA connection, and I think folks really gotta try and separate the studio from the publisher. There are plenty of studios that can make great work under crappy publishers, and I think a lot of great games get shafted because of the publisher that made it as opposed to the studio that actually built it. So I've been playing Star Wars Outlaws, and that game got absolutely shat on for being from Ubisoft, and it is a fun game. It's a good game, and I really hope we don't see yet another Star Wars game that's actually pretty decent that people miss because Ubisoft or EA or something. Now, Star Wars, let's see, Star Wars Zero Company. Greg Forsch, that's right. So, CEO of Bit Reactor, former art director of Firaxis. He worked on XCOM, founded Bit Reactor after that. Yeah, that's right. He was hired to make this game by Vince Zampella. That's right. That was one of the big tells, was like, this game is coming from a really interesting place. It's got some talent behind it, and it seems to have a decent draw and reason to exist. You know, a strategy game is pretty good. I saw the Gears of War strategy game did really well. XCOM is also obviously pretty good. People love 4X. Whoa. Haha. I am interested in seeing what people think of something like this in the Star Wars universe.
It rewards you for the squad that you put together, and it rewards the way that you play.
Yeah, we hope you care about these characters, and I know I do, especially as I'm building bonds with them, and they start to become more and more powerful in my play sessions. So when I walk by, I want to see what they're decorating their desk with, or who they're hanging out with between missions.
It was really critical that we allowed for bonds to decay and fracture as well due to your actions, because that's part of the fantasy of being a leader.
So it is kind of, it gets a little bit more into the character building part.
And you'll have like a third-person action camera. Like it looks like Jedi Survivor or something. And you'll be, you know, walking around as if it were an action game. And it's like amazing, you know, AAA production values.
Really that immersion into these different planets that you get to go down was what, you know, drove that desire to have those kind of free roam moments. And we often sometimes call them on team like our deep breath moments. It's kind of that chance for someone who just had their tactical combat experience, and then they get a minute to kind of collect themselves, take in the environment, take in the world, take in the visuals, and kind of prep for kind of that next tactical engagement where then your kind of heart gets pumping again.
And then you reach a fight and it zooms all the way out to like the XCOM strategic view. This one's actually doing it, and it looks really good, and it played really good.
So that's a quick look at that one as well. I think it's a cool time to be a freaking space nerd, man. No Man's Sky is doing something cool. Actually, Deep Rock Galactic is already also releasing something, right? I think they have a new game coming out. Not as much spacey, but still sci-fi. Still fun. No Man's Sky is doing their updates. Verse Project is still, I think, going. Like, it's just nice to be into space games right now. And I wanted to offer you a couple more looks into some additional RPGs and adventure games that are going on. Ones that are driven by choice, consequence, characters, story, all that jazz. Falling Frontier also, yes. Falling Frontier is actually a big one we're also watching. So if you're interested in more of these, I'll be covering as many space games as I can that I'm interested in, at least, on this channel throughout the year, and leading you towards the release. Hopefully they do well. Either way, that's the news.